Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone online as well. Today is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students and helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. We start our class with meditation because that's a primary part of the training. There's other things you would need to do in order to be able to train your mind to get to enlightenment, but meditation is an important component of that. So I start with meditation as part of each one of our classes. The Buddha taught how to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you no longer experience any discontent feelings. All the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all of this and others are eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. So we start our classes with meditation, but then what I do on Wednesdays is I just open up to any and all questions that students have. So after our meditation, I'll just open up for a question and answer session. But the way we start our meditation is we start with some chanting to ease the mind into meditation. If you'd like to chant along during the meditations, we have the laminated sheets over there on the cabinet that you're welcome to help yourself to. For those of you guys that are online, you can get this by going to buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and then just scroll down towards the bottom and you'll be able to see the chanting sheet there. The Buddha used chanting during his lifetime as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is what they used in order to learn his teachings, to be able to commit them to memory, because they didn't have books and audiobooks, videos, podcasts, YouTube videos. They didn't have those kinds of things 2,500 years ago. So chanting was used as a learning tool, as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't any kind of rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. So if you've been exposed to those kinds of things, thinking that they were the teachings of the Buddha, those are misunderstandings of the teachings of the Buddha. Everything the Buddha taught was about how to train your mind. There aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in his teachings. It's not about believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing now in order to train your mind and experience more and more peace and joy in your life. So if you'd like to chant along, you'll be able to chant along with the chanting sheets, and you'll be able to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. The English translations of the chants are on those sheets for you, so you can see what the words are that we're actually chanting. And if you see the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants, because the Buddha wouldn't walk around and teach people to chant these chants for him out of respect for him, because this would be ego and putting yourself above someone and looking down on someone. And someone, by the time they've gotten to enlightenment, they don't think of themselves as being above others. They consider everyone to be equal, and that's the way their mind functions. They don't put themselves above others, but they don't put themselves below others either. So I'm sure the Buddha wouldn't have created these for himself, but if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. After the chanting, we're going to go into breathing mindfulness meditation, where I'm going to be guiding you in a meditation. You'll hear me essentially teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a brief period of time of quietness where we're just focused on the breath. And anytime the mind moves off the breath, we're cutting that off and letting it go and coming back to the breath. But then I'm going to come back in with some guidance for loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that essentially helps you to rewire your mind to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike towards other people. Right now, you might think that if you dislike someone, that it's coming from them, but in reality, it's coming from your own mind. Your mind has certain expectations, wanting people to be a certain way. And if they meet those expectations, you're happy and you like those people. But if they don't meet your expectations, you will tend to dislike them. This is what the unenlightened mind does. But you can get to a point where you have love and kindness for all beings. And this meditation is going to help you essentially rewire your mind to be more loving and kind. And of course, one meditation isn't going to fix everything, but this is what you would do on a consistent, regular basis. And not only does it help you eliminate your anger, hatred, and ill will towards others, but it also helps you to eliminate that towards yourself. Because sometimes people have a negative self-talk or this inner dialogue where you diminish and degrade yourself. And you can eliminate this too, where you don't think that way about yourself. And this meditation is a great opportunity for you to be able to train your mind in that regard. So I'm going to come in with these affirmations. You're going to hear me say things like, may I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering it causes. You would like to do these on the out breath, and you're repeating this inside your mind. I'm going to be saying it out loud because I'm guiding you, but you would like to say it internally within your own mind on the out breath. And we start with I because you need to have loving kindness for this being who you are. If you don't know how to love yourself, it would be very challenging to have love for other beings. So we start with I. Then we're going to move to rings that become wider and wider and wider until we ultimately get to all beings. Now you're going to hear me say things like, may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. And you're going to hear other things too. I'm kind of generalizing these statements for all of us so that they apply to everybody. But it's important to understand that when I'm doing these affirmations and you're doing this meditation, you're not trying to change mom and dad, for example. You're not trying to invoke some kind of special power to come and change mom and dad through your meditation. This is to change your mind. Sometimes people think that the way to improve their relationships is to change other people. You'll never improve your relationships that way. You need to actually change your mind. That's what the teachings of the Buddha are geared towards, is helping you to transform your mind. So when you're cultivating this loving kindness, it's to develop this within your own mind. So this is so that then once you have more loving kindness in your mind, you can go out into the world through your intention, speech, and actions and be more loving and kind with the people around you. And that's what's going to transform your mind and transform your relationships, is focusing on your mind. You can't change other people, but you can change your mind. So this meditation where you hear me use these different phrases, it's not to change other people or invoke some kind of special power. It's not a prayer or anything like that. It's to be able to build up this loving kindness in your mind, kind of like filling up a gas tank, so that then you can go out into the world and be more loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And this is what's going to transform your mind in your life. After the loving kindness meditation, you're going to see that we go back to breathing mindfulness meditation for a brief period. Then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class and open up to whatever questions you guys would like to ask. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times because your body's not going to be able to be in the same position permanently. You would use these different positions kind of like tools. It's like assembling a tool belt, and then you would use these different tools in different situations. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'm going to give you some guidance on this to be able to help you to get something that's maybe a bit more comfortable than the way you're currently sitting. But understand that what I share with you are just suggestions or recommendations, things for you to consider. There's not just one way to sit. You're not training the body through the teachings of the Buddha, you're training the mind. So you can really sit however you like. What I share with you are just recommendations that you might consider. And you can use something that I share, or if you figure out something on your own, you can just use that as well. So whatever's comfortable for you, you can sit in that way. Oftentimes people sit on the floor, in a chair, or a bench, or a sofa, or a wheelchair. You could sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to kind of help soften the seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Sometimes people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. That's not possible. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And that's true for anybody who's sitting in a chair or on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. Same thing. You can sit however you're comfortable. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. It's helpful if the upper body is erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. This is going to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation so that you can actively train the mind. This is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation, whereas if you were slouched with the upper body, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and shoulders back to not only keep the mind attentive and alert, but it makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do some chanting here to ease into meditation. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to be able to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rogavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhuto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these affirmations in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who have harmed me be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness in the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเขวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. I'm going to share a bit of details on these meditations that we just did and how it integrates into the teachings of the Buddha and the path to enlightenment and how it's benefiting you. And then at a certain point, I'm going to pause and see if you guys have any questions on anything that I've shared or anything that you're seeing related to the teachings of the Buddha or anything about the temples here in Thailand or anything from your own personal life or any challenges you'd like to ask questions about. I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys would like to ask. Here at the temple, if you guys have a question, we have microphones in the white bowl here in the middle of the room. If you just come get a microphone and take it back to your seat, you can use the microphone by just pressing the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on and you can hold it up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then if you would like to keep this microphone with you, you're more than welcome to, because you might have more than one question or someone around you might have a question and you can just share the microphone with those people. And then if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that way we won't get feedback through the speakers. And then anybody who's online, whether you're in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, if you have a question, you can put that into the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you like. So this enlightened mental state is where the Buddha is guiding you to be able to experience complete peace, calm, serenity, and contentedness with joy. This is something that you experience in this life. It's a mental state. The teachings of the Buddha are about training your mind and uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. You can eliminate all your anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others can be eliminated from the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are actually coming from something external. But what you can see through the teachings of the Buddha is that it's actually coming from your own mind. This is why you can eliminate it. If it was other people who were causing these feelings for you, you actually wouldn't be able to eliminate it, because you can't teach 8 billion people in the world to do things your way. So you can actually train your mind to get to the point where there's this peace and joy. And this is a permanent mental state. By the time you get to enlightenment, it's impossible for your mind to ever experience those feelings ever again. You'll notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind will be performing optimally. You won't have these pollutions which are hindering you from having those qualities. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming. They're at ease because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer in your day-to-day interactions. You'll notice that you're not even in a bad mood, that it's physically impossible for you to experience a bad mood by the time you get to enlightenment. So these meditations are helping you along with other aspects of the teachings of the Buddha. You wouldn't be able to meditate your way to enlightenment. It's not possible. Sometimes people have the misunderstanding that the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment. And this actually isn't true, that it took him 6 years to actually get to enlightenment. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that's going to lead to your enlightenment. And you know this to be true because everything you've ever done in life has been that way. Whether it's learning to read, write, and speak a certain language or some job or occupation, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Same thing is true with getting to enlightenment. So this first meditation that I shared with you is the breathing mindfulness meditation. This is training your mind to cultivate the wholesome qualities of mindfulness or awareness of mind and concentration. What awareness of mind is going to help you to be able to do is observe and notice when these feelings are starting to arise, when your anger and sadness and frustration and all these other feelings are starting to arise. You can get to the point where you notice them before it even becomes a feeling. There are certain bodily sensations that you experience prior to the feeling arising. With something like anger, you might notice tingling in the body, tightening in the chest, tightening in the throat, heat and pressure in the face or the skull. This is the early warning system alerting you that you're about to get angry. You're about to get frustrated. And what the Buddha teaches you to do is cut it off there and let it go at the bodily sensation. You're not suppressing your feelings or repressing them. You're actually cutting it off before it becomes a feeling as a bodily sensation. You're essentially rewiring the mind and training the mind to no longer form its feelings on something external. Because in the unenlightened state, what happens is when you experience certain contact through the eyes, ears, nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind itself, you'll either have agreeable contact, that you find that contact to be agreeable, or you'll find it to be disagreeable. And now you will form feelings, which is called conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, you'll now experience either a pleasant feeling like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria, or a painful feeling like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and things like this. So when your mind sees this contact as agreeable, you'll get pleasant feelings. But when the mind sees it as disagreeable, you'll get the painful feelings in the mind. So this is all being caused by the mind's craving, desire, the longing, the yearning, the wanting things to be a certain way. If the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy or excited. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets those painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. Essentially what the mind's doing is holding on. It's craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. And you can see this to be true in your own life, because none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You need to be able to see this for yourself to be able to cultivate the wisdom and know the truth for yourself. Think about a time where you've recently been angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. It could have been this morning or yesterday or last week. What was it that your mind was longing and yearning for? Something you were craving. And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy or excited. But if you didn't get what you wanted, you were angry or frustrated or some other painful feeling. You should be able to see this in your own life. Maybe you went to the airport so excited to come to Thailand, and when you got there, maybe your flight was delayed or canceled. What this is the mind craving permanence. The mind wants every single airplane to take off on time, and this just isn't possible because you live in an impermanent world, that there's going to be a maintenance issue, a crew issue, a weather issue. Every single plane can't take off on time. It's not possible. Or if you were in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend and you guys were really excited and happy when you first got together, when you broke up, you might have been angry or sad or frustrated or lonely or bored or missing this person. This is your mind holding on and craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way. If this person's in your life, you have a certain amount of comfort. But then when your relationship's over and they're no longer in your life, your mind's still holding on and craving permanence. And during that period of time, that's where you're sad or angry or frustrated or lonely or bored. But if you can train your mind to let go, where you're not craving permanence any longer, you can get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. And you can see this because in that situation where you were angry or frustrated when your boyfriend or girlfriend and you guys broke up, at some point you let go. And when your mind let go, that's when your peace came back. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And your mind let go. Or if she wants to move to a different part of the world, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peace and your joy came back. So this meditation of breathing mindfulness meditation is training your mind to let go. Because as long as you hold on, craving permanence, while you live in an impermanent world, you will continue to have difficulties and struggles over and over and over and over and over again. Because you're not going to get everything that you want. It's just not possible. So if you bought a brand new car and you were so excited when you bought it, you might have parked it at a store and went inside, and when you came out, you saw a scratch on your car. It's not the scratch that's causing you to be frustrated, and it's not the person who scratched your car. What's causing the frustration, agitation, is the mind's craving permanence, wanting this car to be permanently beautiful, when in reality, this car is not permanent. The paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. So if you allow your mind to grab onto this car and crave permanence, it's only a matter of time before something changes with the car, and now your mind's angry or frustrated or irritated. So you need to be able to train your mind to let go and not crave permanence. So this meditation, when you're focused on the breath and the mind moves off the breath, that's called mindfulness. You're aware of that, right? And your mind's going to move off of your breath. There's no way that you can meditate and it not move off the breath. In the unenlightened state, your mind's going to move off the breath. But even in the enlightened mental state, your mind's going to move off of the breath from time to time. The difference is that in the unenlightened state, you'll tend to have a bombardment of thoughts. It'll be like thought. Or the second thing that might occur is you have a thought, you think about it, you indulge in the thought, you look at it, you play with it, you follow it, and then like 2 minutes down the road, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm meditating. And now you bring your mind back to the breath. So this is what tends to occur in the unenlightened state because the mind's undisciplined, it's untrained, and you don't have control over the mind. In the enlightened mental state, your mind will still move off the breath from time to time, but you're going to notice it right away, and you're going to cut it off and let it go and bring your mind back to the breath. And then there's going to be quietness and stillness in between your thoughts. So this meditation, the goal is not to eliminate your thoughts. The goal is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and to cut it off and let it go easier and easier. You're cultivating the wholesome quality of mindfulness, to be aware when your mind's moving, and cultivate the wholesome quality of concentration or focus so you can focus on the breath. And then you're training your mind to eliminate the unwholesome quality of craving, desire, attachment, where the mind's holding on, craving permanence. So if 10, 20, 30 different times you had to let go and come back to the breath, this is really helpful for your mind because your mind doesn't know how to let go. It keeps holding on, wanting things to be permanent, and that's what keeps causing the frustration and agitation and annoyance. So if you're meditating regularly each day and training your mind, it's like exercising the mind and training it to learn how to let go, let go, let go, let go. So in meditation, when something comes up, you're cutting off everything and anything that comes up because you're exercising the mind and you're training your mind. But in your day-to-day life, you're only cutting off unwholesome thoughts, right? So you're training in one way, but you're practicing in day-to-day life another way. It's like a professional athlete. If I was a pole vaulter, I might have that as my sport, but when I go into the gym, I'm doing weight training, agility training, cardiovascular training. My training looks very different than my sport when I go out and do pole vaulting. So it's the same thing here, is that you're exercising the mind in meditation to cut off everything and anything that's coming up. And then in your day-to-day life, you only cut off the unwholesome thoughts. So if you're walking down the street and you're thinking, I'd like to call my mom and maybe invite her out to lunch. This would be great to go have lunch with mom. No need to cut that off. That's generosity. That's wonderful. Call up mom. Say, hey, mom, would you like to go to lunch? Oh, you can't go today? Oh, would you like to be able to go some other time? When would you like to go to lunch? Right? No need to cut that off. You need thoughts in order to be able to go forward in life. But if you're at work and you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, cut that off, right? That's going to cause unwholesome results for you, because when you punch your boss, it's going to cause that person harm, and now you're going to probably be out of a job, right? So if you have that thought, that's an unwholesome thought. Cut that off and let it go, right? And now you can preserve your peace and your joy. So meditation, with the breathing mindfulness meditation, you're training to cut off everything and anything, realizing that you will have thoughts from time to time. That's normal. And then in your day-to-day life, you only cut off the unwholesome thoughts. Then when your mind is craving and it's having these longing, yearning, and it's craving permanence, again, if it gets what it wants, it gets happy and excited. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets angry or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And when that anger is arising, the mind attributes this feeling to something external. You'll firmly believe your mom and dad are making you angry, or it's your brothers and sisters that are frustrating you, or it's your boss that's annoying you. This isn't actually true. It's your own mind that's causing these feelings. But because the mind doesn't understand that with its lack of wisdom, it will firmly believe these feelings are being caused by something external. And then it'll become unskillful. It'll tend to push people away, or it'll try to push the situation away. This is called aversion. You might have pushed away friends or family members out of your life, thinking that this was going to solve your problem. But you can see it didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get annoyed. So if this person was the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful for the rest of your life. But you see that hasn't occurred. So the mind's going to try to push people away. Or you're going to be bitter and harsh and hostile to them through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another being. It's like, do things my way. Trying to fear this person into doing things your way. Because the mind thinks, if I can just get things my way, everything will be perfect. But this isn't going to help you, because that's going to damage your relationship, and people aren't going to be interested in being around that bitterness and harshness and hostility. Or the third thing you might do is try to put your expectations on people, pressuring them and forcing them to do things your way. And again, the people feel pressured and they might choose to leave out of the relationship. So as long as you think that the problem is external and you keep believing this and you don't have the wisdom to see what the true problem is, you'll keep pushing people away. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, and you'll put your expectations on them. And this isn't having love and kindness for all beings, where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, where you're practicing active goodwill towards all beings. Harmlessness. As long as you cause harm in the world, harm is going to come back to you. You can't cause someone else to be discontent. You can't cause someone else to be angry or frustrated, but you can cause them harm. You can cause harm to their physical body. You can cause harm to their material possessions. You can cause harm to their reputation. And when you cause harm, people are going to want to cause harm back to you. So whenever you're putting out harm's going to come back to you. So that's why when you're bitter, harsh, and hostile with people, some people choose to leave out of your life, right? They're not interested in being around that. That's your unwholesome result of your unwise decision of choosing to be bitter and harsh and hostile. So that first meditation, a breathing mindfulness meditation, is eliminating the cause of your anger, which is the craving, desire, attachment. That's helping you to knock that down. But the loving kindness meditation is helping you to bubble up this loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, and get rid of this anger, hatred, and ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, and annoyance, even to the point of the slightest dislike towards others. Like you heard me share at the beginning, if you have certain people that you like and certain people that you dislike, this is actually coming from your own mind. The mind has certain expectations, is certain wants, that the mind's craving permanence, that it wants everybody to do things this way. And when people do things your way, you like them. But when they don't do things your way, you dislike them. This is the mind having craving, desire, attachment. And now you might be bitter and harsh and hostile to this person or push them away. You can get to the point where you don't do that, where you can have love and kindness for everybody, understanding that people are different. And because of the universal truth of impermanence, how everything around us is all different and impermanent and temporary, that you understand some people are going to function in one way, some people are going to function in another way, some people are going to function in another way. There's a multitude of different ways that people are going to make decisions, and you aren't going to agree with everybody's decisions, but you can separate the choices and decisions that somebody makes from the person themselves. You can love the person while disagreeing with their choices and decisions, because you'll never agree with anybody's choices and decisions 100% of the time. There's only one person in the world that you will ever agree with their decisions 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is? Who's the person that you'll agree with 100% of the time? Yourself. That's it. So if you can only love people who do things your way, you can only love yourself. And you might even find that hard to do from time to time. So that's where this loving kindness meditation comes in. It's helping you to bubble up this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, including this being who you are, where you're not interested in putting expectations on people, controlling them and forcing them to do things your way, that you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile to them through your intentions, speech, and actions, and you're not pushing people away, right? Thinking that that's going to somehow solve your problem, right? So this loving kindness is where you can have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, understanding that you're going to disagree with people's choices and decisions from time to time, and that's normal. But you can get to the point where you love the person, right? You're never going to agree with everything your parents do. I've never met any child ever that has ever agreed with 100% of everything their parents have done, or their brothers and sisters, or their life partner, or anything like this. So you can disagree with this person's choices and decisions while still loving the person. And this meditation is going to help you do that. Because as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships, all that stuff is going to come back to you. You can see in the relationships where you're bitter and harsh and hostile, those people are bitter and harsh and hostile right back to you, right? So if you clean up your mind, you can clean up the way that you interact with this person, and now you can clean up the relationship. But as long as you're bitter and harsh and hostile, the relationship's just going to continue to struggle. Oftentimes we think the way to solve the problems in our relationship is to change the other person. That's usually what we focus on, because the mind's ego in the unenlightened state thinks I'm so great and everybody else is wrong. My way of doing things is the right way, and the way everyone else does it is the wrong way. So I need to convince everybody else to do things my way. That's just the craving, desire, attachment that the mind has, and that's the mind's ego thinking that I'm right and everyone else is wrong. So if you get rid of this thought that you're right and everyone else is wrong, and understanding that these feelings are coming from your own mind, you can get to the point where you're not trying to change other people, but instead you're transforming your mind. And now as you transform your mind, you can be more loving and kind in the relationships that you're in. And as you're putting out more and more love and kindness, that's what you'll see coming back to you. Not right away, not immediately, but over time, as you gradually train your mind, you'll be able to see that you can clean up your mind and clean up the way you interact with people, and you'll clean up the relationships as well. So these two meditations are helping you to be able to accomplish that. But there's other wisdom that you need besides just meditation, as I mentioned. There's a core central path that the Buddha taught called the Eightfold Path, where he's guiding you and helping you to understand the natural laws of existence, understanding ways to practice things like right intention or right speech or right action. These are wise decision-making around things like your moral conduct, your mental discipline, and cultivating the wisdom to be able to support that. So there's an entire path for you to be able to learn, where the meditation is helping you to build certain wholesome qualities and eliminate certain unwholesome qualities. But then you need to go out into the world and you need to practice these teachings. You can't meditate your way to the elimination of anger. You can't meditate your way to love and kindness. The meditation is just to help fill up your gas tank, essentially, so you can go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, speech, and actions. And that's where the real work is. That's where the real transformation is happening, is in your day-to-day life, in your interactions with people. You wouldn't be able to do this, but let's just say you could meditate 23 hours a day, and then you went outside for an hour a day and you were angry and frustrated and being bitter and harsh and hostile with people. You're not anywhere close to enlightenment, right? You need to be able to go out into the world and understand how to be loving and kind and warm and gentle. And that's what the Eightfold Path is going to help you to be able to do, among other things. And then you use these meditations to be able to support the mind developing wholesome qualities and eliminating unwholesome qualities, so you can now go out into the world and practice the teachings on a day-to-day basis. And as you put out more and more wise decisions and wholesome moral conduct, you'll see more and more this is what you experience coming back. So I'm just going to stop here and see what questions you guys might have about anything that I've shared, or anything that you guys would like to ask questions about, anything that you might be challenged with in your day-to-day life. If there's something you're seeing about the teachings of the Buddha, or anything that you'd like to ask questions about, you guys can use the microphones here, or online. You can put it in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom and unmute your mic and ask questions that way. So is there anyone here online that would like to ask questions? Yeah, sure. Help yourselves. We have microphones here.
Hello. I'd like to ask about something I've observed and quite often observe is Buddhist monks. We often talk about craving, desire, and attachment, but I often see monks in IT stores buying new mobile phones or smoking cigarettes. I even remember a story of a monk owning a private jet bought with donations to the temple. And so I sort of assumed that as people progress through the monkhood, that they would be able to reduce their desires, craving, and attachment. But it doesn't seem to be the case. And have you any suggestions why?
Sure. So if somebody's learning and practicing the way that the Buddha taught, what you just said is true, that they would be gradually progressing closer and closer to enlightenment, eliminating craving, desire, attachment. But not everybody's learning and practicing the teachings closely. Just because they're wearing a robe, they shave their hair. Just because they wear white clothes and shave their hair doesn't mean they're practicing the teachings closely. The Buddha gave a great story about this during his lifetime, because it was happening during the lifetime of the Buddha too, where there was a certain core group of people that were around him practicing the teachings close, but there were people who were wearing robes and shaving their hair and considering themselves a student of the Buddha, but they weren't practicing the teachings closely. He said if he was a cow walking during rainy season on the soft earth and leaving behind his hoof prints, and there was a donkey behind him, and this donkey was putting its hooves in the same hoof prints as the cow, and the donkey was thinking, I'm a cow, I'm a cow, I'm a cow. The fact that the donkey's putting its hooves in the same hoof prints as the cow, and it thinks that it's a cow, does that make the donkey a cow? And the answer is no, of course not, right? So just because somebody wears an orange robe or wears white clothes and they shave their hair doesn't mean that they're practicing the teachings closely. So if somebody's out there smoking, that's definitely a craving, desire, attachment. That's the mind longing, yearning, having a craving. It would be wise for anybody, whether they're an ordained practitioner or household practitioner, to move away from that, because that's producing unwholesome results for them. That's why it produces unhealthy body, produces a lack of wealth, that you don't have as much money to be able to spend on other things. It's also causing harm to others through secondhand smoke and things like this. In terms of like buying IT products and stuff like that, someone can actually have no craving, desire, attachment, and they could still own IT products, right? So the material possession itself isn't the craving, desire, attachment. It's the way the mind longs and yearns for it. So if the mind wants this phone to be permanent and it's holding on and craving for it to be permanent, when it gets lost or stolen or it breaks, you'll be discontent because your mind's craving for it to be permanent. But you can also own a phone and not be attached to it. And there's ways to train your mind to be able to do that. The individual who you saw back many years ago that was using donations from the temple to be able to fly around on a private jet. They were chartering that jet. This individual was, buying Fendi bags and Gucci sunglasses and all this kind of stuff. And the Thai people found out about it because they were putting it all over Facebook and all this kind of stuff. And the Thai people went to arrest this person because of fraud, and they ended up leaving and going to the USA. So they put out an Interpol warrant, and they had the US police arrest them, and they were in California, and they extradited them back to the Thailand. They went through the court system and they was found guilty, and they were sentenced to 20 years in prison, because this isn't the way that the Buddha taught, is that if somebody's receiving donations from the public, you should use a small portion of that in order to support your life, in order to have food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. But then there should be opportunities coming back to the public to be able to benefit from the wisdom that you're sharing and the facility. There should be a nice facility. There should be other things that are happening with those funds. It shouldn't be self-indulgence. That's not what the Buddha taught. In fact, during the lifetime of the Buddha, he didn't even accept gold and silver. That was the currency at the time. He didn't accept land or any kind of material possessions that were of wealth. He only accepted food, clothing, shelter, and medical care, because he lived right alongside of his students, and they could provide him what he needed in order to be able to stay alive, and that's all he needed. Where today, our students don't live with us so close, and there's not always a student there. So we do accept financial contributions to be able to pay things like electric and water and things like this that aren't the way that the Buddha lived. But you can also train your mind to not be attached to money. Just because you have money doesn't mean you're attached to it. It's all about how the mind functions in terms of holding on to it. So yeah, you'll see people that are considering themselves to be ordained, but you shouldn't think of them as monks. Even though they're wearing orange robes, they're shaving their hair. If they're using drugs or alcohol, if they're having sex with people or children, if they're indulging in, purchasing things for themselves, if they're using drugs and alcohol, all these different things, and we could create a whole list of things. That maybe they have an orange robe on and they're shaving their hair, or maybe they have white clothes on and shaving their hair, but they're not practicing the teachings of the Buddha. And the way that the Buddha taught this, and what would benefit you, is you focus on your practice. In order for you to get to enlightenment, you don't need everybody else to be doing things a certain way. You just need to know what are the true teachings of the Buddha, and you practice those. And if these people over here are doing unwise things, that's going to affect them. It's not going to affect you. Yeah, you're welcome. Leo?
Yeah, I would like to ask a question about the walking meditation you teach in other courses. I did it a few times in the park, and on some days or some times there are more mosquitoes. So there was this one day where a lot of mosquitoes attacked me, and after a few minutes I thought I better leave and go home to do it there. But I think it would be good if I put the mind in the situation it doesn't want to be in. Or what do you think about mosquitoes and of diseases they could transfer? Yeah.
If you're being bitten by the mosquitoes, it would be unwise to allow that to continue to occur. So relocating is one way to be able to handle that. There's also these natural oils that you can put on your skin that will deter the mosquitoes, and they're not interested in being on your body. If you have that natural oil, so it deters them. So that's another option that you could use. So these are all viable options. You're not interested in just choosing to stay in a situation that is harmful to the body, because now you're making a decision that's causing harm to this being. You would like to get to the point where you're practicing harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to any living being. So that includes this being who you are. So if you were in a situation where mosquitoes are biting you or somebody's stabbing you with a knife, it would be unwise to just stay there in that situation. You need to make a wise decision to be able to stop this from occurring. And you're not interested in killing the mosquitoes, but if you can blow them off of you or put on a deterrent or move to another location, these are all options for you to be able to do that. If you're in meditation and they're just buzzing around and your mind is annoyed because of that little noise and that buzzing around, that's a situation that you would be able to stay in and train your mind mind to not be affected by that impermanence. Because your mind is in that situation would be craving permanence. It would be craving certain sounds or certain environment. And now you could stay in that situation because they're not biting you. They're not causing harm to this physical body. Batteries out. Batteries are impermanent in the microphones, just like the Buddha said. His teachings apply even to modern technology.
But I think the body wants to have it comfortable, right? That's why he doesn't like the bites. And I thought it's maybe I should put the mind in the situation. And I don't know if they bite me, is it so harmful for the body because of diseases maybe, but I don't see, it's not a lot of pain, right? So
if the mind is craving permanent comfort of the body, then there's other ways that you can train your mind to let that go other than allowing mosquitoes to bite you. Because mosquitoes biting this being, yes, you can get diseases and illness from this. And it would be unwise to allow that to continue, just to be able to train your mind to let go of that particular craving. Because there's other situations that you could put the body in to be able to train it that it's not going to always be comfortable. You could take it into a hot sauna. You could take it into a cold ice room. You could do ice dunks where you're going into like cold water. You can do other things like this. So depending on what it is that the mind is craving in terms of comfort for the body, you can train your mind to let that go. As this body gets sick and you experience illness, there's going to be uncomfortableness there. So you can train your mind to let it go when the body's sick. When this body gets hungry and it needs food, there's going to be some hunger pain. You can extend that amount of time for multiple hours to be able to train the mind that this body is not always going to be comfortable. So these are all ways that you can do this without causing harm to the body through a mosquito biting you. You can even do things like if you're used to sleeping with air conditioning and that's very comfortable for you, you could train your mind that to not have air conditioning and to be able to sleep without air conditioning. This is another way to be able to train your mind that this body is not going to always be comfortable. So these are all ways that you're not going to be causing harm to this physical body or any other being. But letting mosquitoes bite this body, you're causing harm at that point.
Okay, thank you. And how long would you do a walking meditation? I wasn't sure. Is it also the 30 minutes or 20 minutes?
Yeah, what you'd like to build up to for a meditation practice is 2 or 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes. That would be ideal. And for some people, that's a whole lot when they're first getting started. So that's why you gradually build up to this. 6 months, a year, 2 years, you gradually build up to 2 or 3 sessions for 30 minutes. And walking meditation's the same way. There's no harm in doing longer. Then there's no harm doing shorter, but you'll notice that the most improvements are happening at that 30-minute mark. So if you can build up to 2 or 3 sessions for 30 minutes, that's really all you should need. But again, there's no harm in doing it less or doing it more. But in order to get to enlightenment, you're going to need a minimum of 2 meditations per day for 30 minutes. That's what's going to produce enlightenment over the long run. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Where does the Buddha stand on pleasure? Like, it's not necessarily doesn't fit into any of the boxes of things we want to avoid, but also isn't necessarily inherently like useful or necessary. So like particularly delicious meals or entertainment or sex outside of procreation. Yeah.
Sure. So the Buddha doesn't have any, stances. What he's doing is he's explaining to you true reality of what is true. And then it's up to each individual to be able to independently verify that truth and be able to see the truth for themselves. The Buddha only shares with you what is true. And oftentimes the unenlightened mind has difficulty seeing this truth because of its lack of wisdom and because of its pollutions. It's not interested in being able to see this truth, or it just doesn't do the work to see the truth, or hasn't been exposed to this type of truth. So in terms of pleasure, there's what's called conditional pleasure, and then there's what we might describe as enjoyment. Okay, so if your mind's experiencing conditional pleasure, that's actually part of the problem, that the mind can only experience pleasure when certain conditions are met. So for example, if it's sunny outside and you get excited about that and that's pleasurable for you, then that means when the sun is out, you'll be really happy and really excited and you'll enjoy that. But then when there's no sun, your mind will end up in painful feelings. You'll be frustrated, angry, or irritated. Because if you allow your mind to get the conditioned pleasant feelings, then it's only a matter of time before the painful ones come, because your pleasure is based on an impermanent condition. This condition is not permanent. So if you allow your mind to get the conditional pleasant feelings, the conditional painful ones are waiting for you right around the corner. So I'll give you some more examples. So let's just say a piece of chocolate cake. If you went to a restaurant and they have chocolate cake there, and you ate the chocolate cake and you got really excited about this chocolate cake and you had so much pleasure because of the chocolate cake. Well, that means when you come back to the restaurant next week and they don't have your chocolate cake, you're going to be frustrated and agitated or annoyed, because you're basing your inner feelings on the condition that the chocolate cake is here, and that chocolate cake is not permanent. So you're looking to eliminate your conditional pleasant feelings so that you can come to the middle, where you can get to the point where you enjoy things and you have unconditional happiness, where your mind can just always be happy. So for example, if you can enjoy things, using the example of the chocolate cake, you show up to the restaurant and they have your chocolate cake. It's, wow, this is really good. And you enjoy the flavor and you know that it tastes really well. It tastes really good. But let's just say you come back next week and they don't have your chocolate cake. You can still maintain your joy. You can still maintain your peacefulness. But when you can only have conditional pleasure, then that means that you can't maintain your enjoyment and your happiness permanently, because it's based on some condition. This is what the unenlightened mind does, is if the weather is this, if my mom and dad do this, if my bank account is this, if my boss does this, if I have this kind of house and this kind of car, then I'll be happy. But all these conditions being true is very rare. So your ability to be happy actually shrinks because it's conditional happiness. This is why some people are old and grumpy, because they have all these conditions in their mind of the things that they want to be true before they can be happy. So you shrink down your ability to be happy. So if you wipe clean all of that and you don't allow your mind to have conditional happiness, more and more you can move to the middle, where you can get to unconditional happiness, where the mind can be happy all day long. When you wake up, all day long, and when you're going to sleep, your mind can be happy because it's not based on any condition. If it's sunny outside, you are already happy before you saw the sun. And now when it rains or some other weather event, you can maintain your happiness. If they have the chocolate cake at the restaurant, great, you'll enjoy it. But if it's not there, hey, that's fun. I can enjoy just having a conversation with my friends, or I can enjoy having no dessert at all. That you're not basing your inner feelings on some condition. So it's not that the Buddha has a stance on this, or a certain stand. He's helping you to be able to see true reality of what's happening with the mind. And then each individual needs to be able to peer into this truth and penetrate this truth to be able to see the truth in it for themselves. And then they will have the same wisdom as the Buddha. And now that will help you be more informed, that you understand that your goal in life isn't to go around and chase all these pleasures. That, oh, I feel sad. What do I want? Oh, I want more money. Let me chase that for a while. And now you chase the money and you get what you want, but then it fades away and you're not happy anymore. And it's like, what do I want to be happy? Oh, I want a boyfriend or girlfriend. Oh, let me chase one of those for a while. And now you get one of those and now you feel happy for a period of time. But then that fades away too, and you end up back in the painful feelings. What do I need now? Oh, I need a new car. I need a new house. I need a new job. The mind just constantly chasing and is trying to form its inner feelings on something external, thinking that these external things are going to lead to lasting happiness, where really what they're getting is conditional happiness. And that's why it arises, it changes, and it fades away, where ultimately what you would like to get to is permanent happiness. But you can't do that as long as your mind continues to form conditional happiness. So you need to be able to see this conditional happiness is just as much a part of the problem as the painful feelings like anger, sadness, and frustration. And now you can bring the mind to the middle where you can enjoy things, have plenty of so-called pleasure or enjoyment, but it's not conditional, that it's unconditional. And now you can have unconditional happiness where your mind can just be happy all the time without any condition needing to be met.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions you guys have? It just takes a second or two to engage.
I believe the peace of mind is something we can achieve by turning a blind eye to reality. So absurdities and violence constantly occur in the world. So, and because some people give up their peace of mind, become angry and fight, the world becomes more just and better. So finding peace of mind is difficult, yet it also seems the easiest. So it's something we can achieve by turning a blind eye to external violence. So I'd like to ask your opinion about this.
Sure. So you only see attaining peacefulness and joy as difficult and hard because you don't know how to do it. You lack wisdom of how to do it. And that's where the teachings of the Buddha come in, is that he already figured out how to get to this peace and joy. So now when you study his teachings and you don't believe them, you learn and practice to be able to independently verify the truth for yourself. Now you'll cultivate more and more wisdom of how to do it. Because for someone who doesn't know how to do it, which every unenlightened being, they don't know how to get to enlightenment because they lack wisdom. That's the number one problem that the unenlightened mind has, is the lack of wisdom. So the only reason why someone would see it as difficult is because they don't have the wisdom of how to do it. And if you do the work to be able to figure this out through learning, growing, and developing on the path, you won't see it as so difficult. But oftentimes the unenlightened mind is complacent. It lacks dedication and motivation and enthusiasm to be able to actually do the work, that it stays in this darkness because it's complacent. Another way to say that is dull or lethargic or lazy. When you're getting to enlightenment and you're getting to the peace and joy, you're not turning a blind eye to the world's suffering. You understand the world is suffering, but you're choosing not to form your inner feelings based on what's going on in the world. That's what the unenlightened mind is doing, is it's forming its inner feelings based on what's going on in the world. And it thinks that because you're angry, that's your care or that's your love. That's not true. Love and care doesn't actually cause painful feelings. That's your mind craving permanence. I want the world to be a certain way. And if the world's that way, I'll be happy. And if it's not that way, I'm going to be angry and frustrated. Well, the world will never be your way. It's never going to be that way because the world is impermanent. Some people are polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. Some people are going to be angry and bitter and harsh and hostile. But you can't change those people. Those people are being angry and bitter and harsh and hostile based on their choices, not your choices. So this is impermanence. This is, some people are going to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful. Some people are going to be bitter and harsh and hostile. Some people are going to be loving and kind and give each other hugs and kisses. And other people are going to be at war and fighting and killing each other. You can't control that. All you can do is control your own mind. So these people who are choosing to be fighting and killing each other, that's their choice. But if you form your feelings on that, now your mind is choosing to be upset and angry over something that you have no control over, no ability to affect. So you're not turning your blind eye to this. You're just training your mind to not form its inner feelings based on that. And now with that peace and that joy, that calmness, the stability and stableness of mind, if you choose you would like to help people in the world, you'll actually be able to do that. Where when you're angry and you're frustrated and you're agitated and have fear and stress and anxiety, you can't help anybody because you don't even know how to help your own mind, because the mind is having the stress and anxiety and frustration. But when you can learn the wisdom of how to train your mind, and now you've done that for yourself, now you can help countless people. That's why the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, he trained his own mind first. And then once he trained his own mind, over the last 2,500 years, he's helped billions and trillions of people to be able to get to this peace and joy, that they've been able to experience improvement in their day-to-day life. But if you don't know how to do that for yourself, you'll find it is very difficult, and the mind will form opinions like it'll think that by you getting to peace and joy, you're turning your blind eye to this. Because people think that it's their care and their love that's causing their pain. But that's not what's causing the pain. What's causing the pain is the forming your feelings based on what other people are doing. So you can get to a point where your mind's peaceful and joyful. You're well aware of the suffering of other people, but you also know that you can't solve other people's suffering. It's not possible. They have to make decisions for themselves. But out of our loving kindness and compassion and our generosity, we can choose to help people to a certain degree, but they have to choose to help themselves. So, for example, you can't feed somebody out of hunger. It's not possible. If somebody's hungry and they're having persistent hunger, you can't actually feed that person out of hunger, because the reason why that person doesn't have food is they haven't cultivated the wisdom of how to acquire the food, or they live in an area where food is lacking and they don't have the ability to acquire that food. So if I fed this person every single day, they are now dependent on me. And now they're attached to me, and I am not permanent in their life. So as soon as I go away, they don't have food anymore, because they've never cultivated the wisdom of how to get the food themselves. So you can't feed somebody out of hunger, and you also can't take somebody out of anger. If somebody's angry, you can't take that away from them. They have to work to get that rid of that themselves. So any aspect of improving someone's life, each individual person needs to decide to make that improvement for themselves. So as a person moves closer and closer to enlightenment, they're well aware of other people's suffering and the misery and despair that they're in. But that individual is choosing not to form their inner feelings based on what other people are experiencing. And that person, as they're getting more and more peace and more joy, and they're cultivating wisdom themselves of how to do that, they might choose to share that wisdom with other people. But it's up to those other people to decide that they would like to learn that wisdom and then implement that wisdom in their life so that they can get to peace and joy. But it's up to each individual to decide that for themselves, and you can't force somebody to be able to do that. So you're never turning a blind eye to people's suffering. You're just choosing not to form your feelings based on other people's suffering. Yes, you're welcome. Other questions? I think you had a question, right? It's up to you.
I guess more on a previous question too about, happiness. I mean, sometimes I'm on. I just know it. Everything is right, and nothing, phases me. But it's not always that way. I'm wondering. I guess just to make a question. The further you get along the path and with yourself, and do you wake up? Do you think about, am I happy or am I not? And if you're not happy, do you try to do something about it, or you just go with it? Or are you always happy?
Me personally?
Personally, yes.
I'm always happy.
Yeah.
I haven't had any anger for many, 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 many years. I haven't had any frustration or agitation or annoyance or any of those feelings. The things that I share with you guys about what works to get to this peace and joy, it's from my own experience. It's not just something I read in a book and I'm regurgitating. It's not something that somebody told me about. It's something that I'm experiencing, and I explain to you guys how to do that and how to accomplish that. And that's why I can look you in the eye and tell you exactly how to get to this enlightened mental state. But the challenge for each individual is, as I was mentioning to this lady, is that it tends to be very complacent. the average unenlightened being tends to be fairly complacent. The mind isn't really interested in putting forth that effort and energy and having that dedication and determination over a long-term period to be able to train their mind to experience this mental state. As I sometimes share with people, if every single person could taste the peace and joy just for a few minutes, there would be nothing that would stand in your way of getting to that peace and joy, right? Because once you get to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state, right? But if everyone could taste it just temporarily and then needed to do the work to actually get to it, they would allow nothing to stand in their way to get to that peace and joy, because they would see how transformational it is for their own mind, not just themselves, but the people around them. Because as long as you go through the world being bitter and harsh and hostile with people, you're causing harm to the people around you. And this is causing difficulties within your own mind. It's causing difficulties in your life. It has a ripple effect all through the world. And by the time you get to this enlightened mental state where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful, you won't be causing harm to others. And you'll see that nothing but love and kindness and politeness and respect is coming back to you. Sure, there's still going to be an occasional person that's impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful to you when you're in the enlightened mental state, but it won't affect your mind any longer because your mind is trained to not form your feelings based on that. So in the process of getting there, if you are unhappy, if you're noticing that unhappiness, there's some craving, desire, attachment that's producing it. And you would like to look inward and try to figure out what is it that the mind is holding on to? What is the mind craving or longing, yearning for? Because if you can eliminate that longing, yearning, you can get to peace and you can get to joy. Some of these attachments, some of these cravings, you'll actually feel the moment it releases from your mind. The Buddha calls it maturing in release, that you need to mature the mind and mature the mind and mature the mind. And then eventually it will release out of the mind. And as soon as it releases, you can feel the joy, like, whoa, because it's like carrying around a burden. Carrying around these cravings, it's like carrying around heavy burden on your shoulders. And what the Buddha teaches you is to lay down this burden, how you can now walk the earth with a free mind, with a liberated mind. And that's what you would like to be able to get to. But you need the tools and the techniques of how to do that, that just meditation isn't going to do it. A lot of times people focus a lot on meditation, which you're going to need a certain amount of meditation. But if that's all you were doing, you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment. There's many other factors that you need to be able to cultivate in order to experience those improvements to the mind in your life. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions? Other questions? Okay. Well, what I'm going to do then is just end by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and grow and develop. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for the discussion. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for you to do that. I'll just share a few of them with you. That on Friday at 6 p.m., we have a social event here each Friday at 6 p.m. This week, we're going to have game night where people come and we hang out. It's kind of like a little party. We have music playing. We have board games. Some people like to bring food and snacks and things like that. So you, your friends, anybody you bump into over the coming days, you're welcome to come here at 6 p.m. and enjoy a nice little social event with everybody. On Saturday morning at 9 a.m., we have the Pali Canon and English study group where we study the original words of the Buddha. And then on Saturday at 1 p.m. this week, we're going to be having an introduction to the teachings of the Buddha course. It's a 3-hour course where you're going to learn what are the teachings of the Buddha and what aren't the teachings of the Buddha. And then I'm going to share with you his very first teaching. So this is a great course for anybody who's just getting started. It's at 1 p.m. on Saturday. It's called the Introduction to the Teachings of the Buddha. And then on Sunday morning at 9 a.m., we have the group learning program where we're going to be in chapter 18 of this book, where on Sundays I do meditation with students and then I do a talk on a chapter in this book. The chapter 18 is titled God's Creative Action. You Have Free Will. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha didn't teach about God, or he denied the existence of God, or he rejected God. This isn't actually true. He taught about God. He just didn't put God at the center of his teachings, because it's not God who determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. It's you that determines whether you get to enlightenment or not. So he put you at the center of his teachings. But he did teach about this being. And you can have a relationship with this being if you like and get to enlightenment, or you could choose not to have a relationship with this being and still get to enlightenment as well. So we're going to talk about this being, helping you guys to be able to understand this being and some of the misperceptions that are out there about that. So I'm going to be teaching that at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Sunday. And then on Sunday evening at 6:30 in the main hall, we have a meditation where I guide students in meditation. And then I basically open up to questions that the students have. So if you are coming for the Sunday night walking market, or if you'd like to come just for the meditation, you can come to the main hall. And then next week, from Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., we have a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course, where I'm going to be teaching you all the foundational teachings that you need to be able to get on the path to enlightenment. This is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So you're welcome to attend any of these options. You'll be able to see them on our calendar over there on the bulletin board. You'll see them on our website as well at buddhadailywisdom.com. You're welcome to come talk to me after class and get any help that you'd like. I recommend for people to really start with this first book. You can actually get it for free by downloading it from our website. You can take it and go print it yourself if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. That's the best place to start. You'll probably read this book several times over the course of multiple months and years, because you'll be able to glean information from it. And this is where I teach from that first book, but then there's other programs where I teach from all the other books too. So everything available is available to you at no cost. If you're interested in eliminating these discontent feelings, getting to the point where your mind is completely peaceful and joyful, there's help for you here, and it's available to you. All you need to do is decide to put in the dedication and the effort and the energy to learn and grow and develop on the path. So whatever you decide to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee khap. Sawadee khap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.